So, I want to now talk about Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. I've been seeing a lot of wide receivers get signed during this free agency period, and none of them have gone to the Baltimore Ravens. And it's pretty clear to me over the past 2 seasons that Lamar Jackson's a dynamic quarterback. He's amazing. He's won league MVP. He's won over 80% of his games. I believe he's definitely, at the very least, a top 10 quarterback. He's a special runner of the football at the quarterback position. He led the league in touchdown passes a couple of years ago, so he's shown the ability to beat you throwing the football as well as running the football. Lamar Jackson is dynamic, and John Harbaugh, he's a great head coach. Baltimore seems to have a great defense. But over the past 3 seasons, Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens have not been good enough to win a Super Bowl. And a big reason why is because the Baltimore Ravens have failed to put great weapons by Lamar Jackson's side at the wide receiver position. Look, I like Marquise Hollywood-Brown. I like Willie Snead. But these guys are not true number 1 wide receivers. Meanwhile, you've got Aaron Rodgers. He's got Devontae Adams. Kyler Murray has DeAndre Hopkins. Baker Mayfield has great wide receivers. Tom Brady has wide receivers for days. Same thing with Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen got Stephon Diggs this year. He had a career year. It's time for the Baltimore Ravens to give Lamar Jackson a legitimate number 1 wide receiver. Now, we've already seen, Will Fuller and AJ Green get signed in free agency. So there's not a whole lot of options out there. And look, Lamar Jackson's a great quarterback, but it's very clear to me he needs a number 1 wide receiver by his side. That's true for 95% of the quarterbacks out there, okay? Most quarterbacks cannot win a Super Bowl without great wide receiver play, or at least multiple great targets. That is why I believe the Baltimore Ravens should do everything in their power to trade for Julio Jones. The Baltimore Ravens' first-round pick is a late first-round pick. So, look, the bottom line is whoever they draft more than likely is probably not going to be good enough to start for them right away just because it's a late first-round pick. And, well, by the time you get past pick 15 of the NFL draft, most of the elite players are probably gone. Sure, you have your undrafted guys, your gems in the 3rd and 4th round and things of that nature, but as far as the guys that are getting the most hype, they're gone by pick 22, 23, 24, 27. That's the range the Baltimore Ravens are picking in. Meanwhile, the Atlanta Falcons, they're in rebuild mode. They need all the draft picks they can get. And meanwhile, they've got a star wide receiver named Calvin Ridley, who's not Julio Jones, but he can develop into a number 1 wide receiver one day. Some argue he's already a number 1 wide receiver. And look, if I'm Atlanta, I'm hesitant to move on from Julio Jones, but I also recognize that I think my team has peaked. I need to start rebuilding. So I'm willing to put Julio Jones on the trading block. And if I'm Baltimore, I'm willing to throw multiple picks at the Atlanta Falcons to go get Julio Jones. Julio Jones, when healthy, might arguably still to this day be the best wide receiver in all football. I get Tyreek Hill is dynamic. I get DeAndre Hopkins is dynamic. I get Devontae Adams is dynamic. But that guy Julio Jones, he's the real deal when healthy. So, look, I think Julio Jones still has a lot left in the tank. He still has about 3 to 4, maybe 5 good to great years left in him. He still has something left in the tank, in my opinion. And I believe if Julio Jones gets added to the Baltimore Ravens, they start to become serious Super Bowl contenders. The Baltimore Ravens, to me, over the past couple of years, have been a good playoff team. But they haven't quite been on New England or Kansas City or Tampa Bay or Green Bay or San Francisco's level just because they're not dynamic enough at wide receiver. Julio Jones will be a great pass-catching option for Lamar Jackson. He'd be a 1,000-yard receiver, no doubt about it, if he stays healthy. He's also big and physical enough to block in the run game. You know, the Baltimore Ravens ask their wide receivers to run block a lot because, well, they're a run-first offense, okay? So you need to be able to run block in that offense. And when Julio Jones is on the field, he's going to be able to elevate Marquise Hollywood Brown and Willie Snead and Mark Andrews, because you have to pay so much attention to Julio Jones that those guys are going to get open. I love Mark Andrews a lot more as a number 2 option as far as pass catchers. Okay, I know he's a tight end, but he's kind of the number 1 option on the Baltimore Ravens offense. As far as Marquise Hollywood Brown and Willie Snead and Devin Duvernay, I like those guys a lot as complementary pieces. I don't like them as number 1s, but complementary pieces, yep, sign me up. So, I think if Baltimore is serious about competing for Super Bowls and about getting Lamar Jackson the help he needs, they will go out and trade for a guy like Julio Jones. I know Atlanta probably is going to be stubborn as far as them neglecting to trade Julio Jones, but guys, there's a sucker born every day. I guarantee you, if the Baltimore Ravens throw enough good assets at Atlanta, they'll at least have to think about trading away Julio Jones, no matter how good he is. Because whether Atlanta wants to admit it or not, they know for a fact they're not winning a Super Bowl this year or in the next 2 to 3 seasons. They're rebuilding. So if you're the Baltimore Ravens, this offseason, you must focus on getting Lamar Jackson a number 1 wide receiver, and why not start out by getting Julio Jones to be that guy for Lamar Jackson. Julio Jones is one of the 5 most talented wide receivers of all time to me. He's excellent. He's great. He's a great guy. He's great for your locker room. He's dynamic when healthy on the field. And he'd be an A-plus addition to the Baltimore Ravens roster. And he could be the piece that puts Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens over the top. Baltimore would enter the Super Bowl conversation legitimately if they add a guy like Julio Jones or Kenny Galladay, or just quite frankly, a number 1 wide receiver to their roster. Go try to trade for Julio Jones, Baltimore Ravens. It's the right move to do, and it would definitely help out Lamar Jackson if you can get that deal done. No doubt about it. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juice Alert Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big-time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juice Alert Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.